Hey there! Today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 Metroid locations. I'm sure everybody's wanted to hear about this topic for quite some time, hence why I decided to search it up into YouTube. But what you may not understand is why you wanted to hear about it. I'm going to try to give my short, simple explanation for why I think so. At this time of year, it should be cold outside. It would probably help if there would be snow. Of course, it would probably also help if I recorded this during the day so you could see that there's no snow. But either way, if it were cold outside, then the Metroids would hate it because they're weak to cold. So they'd have to find other locations to live in.
Starting off the list, I chose Sector 6 from Metroid Fusion. While it may not be the most outstanding place in the series, it is unique. It's clearly trying to seem like a creepy cavern, but with your vision being limited to a circle of light. Covering the place in darkness really adds to the suspense. Check out this footage of me playing through this part of the game.
I'm a little bit scared, Ah!
Jokes aside, I understand why they made the edges of the screen visible. It would get annoying if Samus couldn't see 3 feet ahead of herself, especially with the Game Boy Advance being this small. The enemy that you just saw is a Blue X parasite. When Samus doesn't have the Varia suit, they freeze her. The first part of Sector 6 is a game of running away from these invincible parasites. One of the more memorable moments from this area is the SAX encounter. It lays a power bomb in a hallway and forces you to roll for your life while the entire room explodes, leaving all but one block exposed. My favorite part about Sector 6 is that it serves as the entrance to the restricted zone. You may think that means I'm lazy and just didn't want to redo the whole segment after realizing that the restricted zone is my favorite part of the game, but what if I just like this background better than all the other ones in Sector 6? Close your eyes and imagine this. You start up Metroid Prime 2. The disc suddenly stops working. You may open your eyes now. You probably experienced a lot of stress while hearing that story. What if I told you that that was a predicament I had found myself in a while ago? My only experience with Metroid Prime 2 was the very dry, desert-looking intro, until one day when I decided to try a different save file. The person who had played the game before me had already made it to Torvus Bog. I got to spend literal seconds just taking in the sights. Fast forward a few years later, and now I have the Prime Trilogy. I was excited to finally make it past the dull environment. Little did I know that the first 2 areas were deserts. I had to slog through Aegon Wastes and the other place. Whatever this one's called. Regardless, the first area that really caught my attention as being different was Torvus Bog, just like when I had first played the game. It's the exact opposite of everything else that shows up at the beginning of Metroid Prime 2. The ground is flooded with water and there are walls, making it the perfect place for trees to grow. Oh wow, look at these guys, so original. Wait a second. That's a reference to a joke I'm going to set up later in the video. Well, just trust me, you would have died laughing. The lower levels of Torvus Bog have murky, yellowish, stagnant waters. Rain constantly falls above ground, making it 100 times better than the lower part. Heck, I call it the best looking location in the game. You can try to argue that I'm being superficial, but visuals are what gives each area its identity. You heard me forget the name of the first place because it was so bland. I did that to prove a point, by the way. Of course I know that that place is called the landing site. And just for the people who will get upset, that was a joke, it's called the Temple Grounds. That music fading in is 50% of the reason that I put Brintstar from Super Metroid in 3rd.
You know what? Actually make that 45.3264. No, wait, not 4. 5% of the reason.
Brintstar Green's music feels like the start of an adventure. The slow fade-in perfectly signifies that this is the true beginning of a journey that will become quite challenging. But in the meantime, Samus can explore the greenery that's teeming with life. The red soil area also has good music. That's 5.239% of the reason I put Brintstar in 3rd.
You know what? Actually just make that 75% of the reason.
Metroid Zero Mission starts out as a normal remake of the first Metroid game. Your main goal is to defeat Mother Brain. But when you're escaping planet Zebes, Samus' ship gets struck down by space pirates, and she has to sneak around the space pirate mothership with nothing but a pistol, leaving her practically defenseless. This accounts for one half of Chozodia. If Samus gets caught by a space pirate, then the punishment is instant annihilation. Well, almost instant annihilation. They can do a decent amount of damage. Like, they'll probably hurt you a little bit if you stand there for long enough. There we go. Basically instant annihilation. The space pirates probably don't sound too intimidating anymore, but if you got multiple chasing you, then you're actually in danger. The second half of Chozodia takes place in the Chozo Ruins. It's still a stealth mission, but now there are statues of Chozos in awkward positions. There are also many tapestries. The most significant one reminds Samus that she's adopted. It's here that she gets her suits and weapon back. An epic version of the Brinstar theme starts playing, but unfortunately, the Game Boy Advance sound chip is not a huge fan of epic music, so it sounds like this. Chozodia has a few classic Metroid tropes, like a massive glass hallway that can be exploded by a power bomb, and these slow-moving guys. They always get put in the worst places possible. I'm kind of on a tight deadline right now. Oh, the whole place blew up. Forgot that was gonna happen. No! I was so close to the good ending. The best location in the history of Metroid is... drumroll please. I want to add to the suspense. Phendrana Drifts. I like a good snowy themed area, and this is a very good snowy themed area. It's far and away the best looking location in any Metroid game. The Chozos clearly made it to the shorelines because there are statues of them all over the place that have been standing for decades. Here, I'll point this one out with a missile. That should make it easier to see. Whoops. That made it a lot harder to see. Once you move off the shorelines, you get into space pirate territory. They've set up labs in Phendrana Drifts because the things they're experimenting on are weaker and easier to control in the cold, the thing they're experimenting on being Metroids. The first time that you see a Metroid is typically a very big deal, and I would say that this reveal was executed pretty well. The Space Pirate Lab is like a traditional FPS game, except instead of getting the joy of killing tough enemies, you get the joy of reading data entries and the sadness of murdering pathetic enemies. When you reach the end of the Space Pirate Lab, you get the Thermal Visor. This allows Samus to see warm things in the dark. At that exact moment, the power shuts down, and Samus is forced to fight her way back to the shores of Phendrana Drifts. For as cool as it is, it's not very difficult. Unless you decide to turn off the Thermal Visor and get lost, which I somehow managed to do in a hallway, you won't have any trouble ripping through Space Pirates and getting out of there.
I believe that after having watched this video, there's a 100% chance that you'll be subscribed, because if you're not, well, let's just say you're not going to be alive.